Hey everybody, this is Sherry with CPR, Craft, Pray, Repeat, and I'm here today with a Digi from Imagine That Digi called Manatee Painter, and I will make sure that I put the colors that I use on the screen for you to see. He was so much fun to paint, Jeez Louise, I don't know where my head is today. I colored him. I did not paint. I'm like, I can't even house paint, let alone paint. You know, I am just not that kind of gal. So I'm here with my Copic coloring, and I'm just putting down my base layer. Excuse me. And I color him with the entire C0, or I color him entirely with C0. And then I go in and put my shadows and then my midtones, and then I go over everything again with my lightest color. And then I wanted my manatee to have not so much texture, but I guess, how would you put it, different. Their skins aren't solid gray. Okay, I don't know how else to put it. So I take my colorless blender and I go over spots, and it takes some of the gray away. And when it does that, it gives him like a pattern or spotty or something like that. That's the only way I can explain it, and that's my story, and I'm sticking with it because I'm kind of confused at the moment for some reason. And but he was so fun to color because I love the fact that there's so much image there to do whatever I want. And if you watercolor, I'm sure that you would love to be able to put in, any extra details and make sure that the shadows are intense. And I just love it. I really do. I love the fact that he has less detail, because that means I can add my own detail, and I really enjoyed that. And there we go. I'm just coloring his little tiny nose, and I really loved him. He's so sweet. I'm telling you, if I could have a pet manatee, I would. Well, actually, my daughter, we went to see the manatee. We live in Florida, and we went to Big Bend, and we saw the manatee there, and she bought me, when we went to the beach next time, because I loved them. I thought they were just amazing. She bought me one made out of, or cut out of teak, and she gave it to her dad to hold on for her, so that she could give it to me for Christmas that year. And I got it for Christmas like 3 years later. My husband figured out when he finally found where he'd put it. But it doesn't matter. I still love it. And that little manatee sits on my desk every day. And I think they're adorable. I was like, they call them sea cows. I'm like, I could get in there. I could so relate. And I was just like, I had a blast when we went to see them. And so right now, here's where I go and I put the different splotches or spots onto his skin. And it's really sad to see them lots of times, because some of these spots are created by people with boats not being careful or coming in where they're not supposed to, and they scar and cut up the poor little manatee's flesh. So that made me sad. But not all of them are, not all of the spots are caused by that. And so I went ahead and added it into what I remembered that my manatee looking like. There was one there, he just had a ball. He'd just peek up and look at you and then go away. And then you'd wait. It was like a game of hide and seek to see where he was going to come up again next. It was so much fun. I loved them. I had a blast. I was like, I think I had more fun than the kids did that day. But here I am. I'm just coloring in his beret. And what I tried to do was pick colors that matched the paint that was written on the paint canvas, and I did pretty good. Um, I could have done that a little more blue, I think, but I still think it looks really nice. And then I had one more tube of paint than I had color on the thing, so I picked one, and which just kind of, I was like, no, there should be another color, but I didn't panic. I got it taken care of. Actually, I asked my daughter, I was like, what color should I put in here? I was I was having so much fun coloring him that I didn't want to mess up. It was just, I mean, I guess if I was having that much fun coloring him, it wouldn't have been a bad thing if I messed up, because then I could have colored another one. And that's what's great about Digis. I guess I can print out as many as I want and make them as big as I want, because that's the other thing I like, because of the size. And I know that I'm making these Digis much larger than what a regular stamp would be. But for somebody like me who's legally blind, that is like awesome sauce, because it makes it so much easier for me, and I just am really able to enjoy that part of crafting and not having to strain so hard to see. So if you're somebody who doesn't see real well and wants something that's a little easier for you, Digis are the way to go, because you can make them the whole size of the card if you want to, and it just makes it a lot easier for people like me. And so here again, I'm just coloring up his little apron, and to me, there's the minute I saw the apron, my brain went to the little canvas aprons that you find in the craft stores. So I don't necessarily know that a painter would have one like that, but my little painter did, because if he could get to Michael's or Joann's or Hobby Lobby, I'm sure that's where he would go. So I went ahead and colored it like that, and I think it might be a little darker than the actual canvas ones, but I still like how it turned out. And so now we're getting ready to color the easel, and my daughter has several of these, so this part was easy for me, and I enjoyed it because I knew for sure what colors, and knew that it was wood, and knew what to expect from the shapes and the shadows, because I could look at hers. And so that made it a lot of fun for me to color him. I think I could have probably colored about 20 of them. I was having so much fun, and trying to make sure that when I went at the angle, that I didn't go straight out, that my angle either curved up or down depending on how it was drawn, so that it made it look like it was dimensional, that it wasn't just one flat piece of wood, when the wood is actually, there's a ridge down the center or the corner of the board. So I really had fun with that. And I have just, I can't tell you how much I've fallen in love with these. I got another one started, and it's Christmas. I love my Christmas. So, and I did use just some real basic colors here. I didn't, like the paintbrush and then the bristles, I didn't use 3 colors. I used 2 on the brush and 1 on the bristles. I mean, I don't think that anybody would notice that much if, it's just a small spot. And in my opinion, it would have been hard to put 3 or more colors. And I normally do not do that, but I'm learning to just, take a break, take a breath, relax, and enjoy the process, and not feel like it has to be perfect. And that is definitely where my mindset was when I did this. I didn't feel like it had to be perfect, and because of that, I enjoyed it 100 times more than I do sometimes. And now here I'm just putting in some shadows because in my mind, again, canvases are white, but I guess you could color it any color you wanted. But I wanted it to be that the words on the canvas were kind of like the focal, and it says, "You color my world." And so I didn't want to, I wanted that to be what the manatee was painting or writing. And here I use my silver gel pen because, again, when I go to craft stores, I don't get out much, but when I do, and I go to the craft stores, by golly, the paint tubes always seem to be silver. And I could have colored it with my C markers, but I wanted them to be metallic. So that silver gel pen just worked out perfect. And here I am adding the black glaze to his eyes, and then just a little bit of Spectrum Noir shimmer to the color piece on the palette and onto the brush, just as if he were putting that final color on there. Going back in, putting the little white dot with my white glaze pen in his eyes to just make him look all happy and smiley. And here I go to trim him down, and I cut him to 3 1/4 by 3 1/2, which I probably, looking back, had I put more space between my images when I printed them out, I would have made him a different size. But since I had done that, I was like, no, I'm going to work with this. And I knew that I wanted to keep it a square. I didn't want to have to cut it out, so I was just going to kind of go with it. And there is the paper pad that I'm using from Pink and Main called Spring Color Pop. And I trim it down to 3 3/4 by 5. And I switch things around here a little bit, and you'll see that I made another piece of the sentiment that I printed out myself and came up with. And it just says, you know, the thing says, "You color my world and make me happy." And I think I probably should have put, "and that makes me happy," but it's okay. It's okay. I'm not stressing. Remember, I'm not stressing. Look, I hit my light one here. I'm talking with my hands. I have got to stop doing that. And so here I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to lay it all together, get my ATG gun out, and start adhering pieces down. And like I told you, I just love, now that I figured out that as long as I can see the long side and the 2 short sides, I can layer things up pretty quick. And now I do really good with the silver, which that is the poster board from the Dollar Tree, and I love that stuff. Now I struggled a little bit with putting him down, but had I turned him sideways where I could have seen the 3 equal edges, I think I would have done, you know, it would have been much easier on me. And I just wanted that sentiment to be the same width as him, so I just laid it across there and trimmed it up. And didn't even, you know, just hauled out my scissors for it, nothing fancy. And so I go ahead and I attach him, and then I wanted there to be a little gap so it almost looked like he was set into a frame, was my thinking. So I set him up, and then I leave a little gap, and then I put the piece on the bottom. I hope you guys like this video. I really hope that you go and check out Imagine That Digi, because I have fallen in love with them. And I will make sure that I put a link in the description box to all the awesome things that she carries in her store. Thanks for visiting me today, guys. Remember to practice your CPR. Craft, pray, repeat. Bye.